right, are we on? Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of MeteorJS Dispatches. This is episode 76. My name is Jan Dvorak, and with me here is...
Yeah, with you is Jan Küster from Germany. Hello.
And today we'll be looking at a very nice topic that is right now everywhere, AI. And specifically, we'll be looking at the reasons why AI is not going to replace you, or why we think the vibe programming and all these similar things are really just a fad, and eventually things will not return to the normal or to what we know it, but they will evolve. But I think here we believe that it's a lot of the things here is overblown. So without further ado, let us get started with the news. And topically, we have state of surveys doing their Webdev, specifically Webdev AI survey. It's a new survey that asks you about all the things like what AI tools are you using for coding, what are you using AI tool using for that, for image generation, all that stuff. So if you are using any of the AI tools, please go on ahead and fill these out. It will be especially insightful to kind of get away from all the marketing hype and to see what people are actually using, what people are thinking about the quality. And as we go on in years, we'll be also able to see how the popularity evolves, similar to what we've seen with the other state of surveys like React, web development, and so on. And you might also learn about some interesting tools here and there. So next, Jan.
Is this the same survey style as the usual surveys we know, like
Yes.
state of React, state of JS, state of HTML?
Yes, exactly. All of that. It's the same system, so nothing unsuspecting there. So getting back to the hardware part of AI, Jan, what do we have here?
So this is an insight from the people at Fly.io who are providing virtual machines and software as infrastructure as a service, and they were designing GPU-based infrastructure that you could on demand create and leverage for your AI tools. And they found out nobody wants to fiddle with GPU because it's overly complex, it's annoying, and people just want API access. And this is some interesting takeaway, and I personally feel the same. I would always prefer having API access to an existing model that runs somewhere, or a platform where I just upload my model and I don't have to fiddle around with that whole GPU stuff. Of course, someone would argue, yeah, but it's important to understand these concepts, and I could return that argument and say, yes, but not for me. There are other people who want to fiddle with that and who want to understand that. And if you're thinking about providing infrastructure as a service with GPUs included, then rethink who would your customers be. So if your customers are full stack developers, software engineers doing full stack web application like we do with Meteor, that might be not your number one target group.
Well, I think it's also very similar to why services like Galaxy, AWS, Azure, and many other hosting providers and similar exist as well, and other software as a service and service where the entire service industry exists, because people just kind of want to get on, and they don't want to have like an entire army of developers, engineers, and other people. If we can kind of pull the resources together on one platform.
And then we will soon we will have vibe coding as a service, but I don't want to take too much what this will be about. You will see later in the episode.
Yes. Speaking of AI, one of the big things that you might have heard somewhere is like people, oh, soon you're going to have it on your phone. If you have Android, you might actually have a little bit of that already. This has been kind of big issue that recently Google kind of installed on your Android phones, including mine's. This you see the icon, this app. Let me quickly go back to my notes. It's called Safety Core, and it's supposed to scan through your pictures for your safety to flag sensitive content, spam and other things. But it's not open source. It has 2 gigs of hard drive, so nobody really knows what it's doing. Not really much of a settings or anything like that. So as you can imagine, this did not go well with people. That suddenly Google installs something on your phone without telling you or asking you for permissions. Probably violates the GDPR or something as well. Supposedly it's like a local AI that does all the checks, but we don't really know because it's a black box, and that's also partially issue with pretty much any closed AI. What does it really do?
So Jan, does it also, do you know if it also scans other files? For example, I have a authenticator app on my telephone, and I just did a backup, exported to a file, and of course there's some stuff encrypted in there, but not everything. And do we know anything about this? Obviously not, right?
We don't know. There is like a people are talking that potentially also in the future it can scan your emails locally and do all the other stuff. But again, it's closed source. We have no idea what's really going on under the hood. So it might have access, it might not. The good thing is that if you find it on your phone, you can actually uninstall it. So that's a good side. But for me, it was automatic uninstall because I find it absolutely unacceptable that you install something secretly without any warning or permissions. That just screams to me,
which, by the way,
it's not above the board.
Yeah, which, by the way, defies their own permission design system, because they designed this whole granular permission system in Android to prevent apps from doing that, from just starting scanning stuff and reading stuff and writing stuff without your explicit consent. I mean, I think you have to not only consent at installation level, but for some of the things you also have to consent during the app execution level. But this defies everything of their own design.
Yes. So that's something for you to be aware of. Now, bit down the memory lane for us computer games enthusiasts, there has been a quite surprising announcement from EA of all places, and they pretty much updated and released Command and Conquer games on GitHub. So it's in a way it's open source. They added support for Steam Workshop, so people can add mods, which is definitely going to, I would say, again, bring people back to those games by adding lots of mods and playing on. So that's going to be interesting. Jan, have you played any of the Command and Conquer games?
To that, I just have a question to give back to you, Jan. Not or GDI.
No, I started with, what was it, Red Alert 2?
Okay.
And then, of course, I played the Generals and General 0 Hours. That was my only exposure to those. But why I'm bringing this up, besides this just being an interesting tidbit of the news, if you kind of go through the code itself, I think it's very revealing, and there are threads on Twitter, which I think we link here. Oh no, so this will be announcement, but let me open it up here very quickly.
So yeah, in the meantime, while you open, I just can tell you. So I started actually with CNC1, but you know why? Not even on the computer. It was on a PlayStation demo disc, and there was CNC1 as a demo, and that was awesome. It's obviously just the first level, and but you could decide. You couldn't even decide the mission or anything else. But that was I love that.
Yeah. So what I found, this besides all the bringing up all the awesome memories and all that stuff, people actually went through the code and found a lot of funny, moments, a lot of to-dos and other things. For example, here, there's this is experimental optimization, and if it's present in 2003, please, get rid of this, please nuke. And so there is a lot of this works, but I have no idea why.
We will get that moment with increasing AI a few times more in the future, I think.
Where here we have the evil hack here, and so even top line games and have a lot of these. This is the same thing with a lot of corporate code, and that's why we have why refactoring and kind of going back to old code as much as it's dreaded, it's also necessary because there's a lot of to-dos, and I have a to-do that sometime in the future I need to dedicate a month to just go through the code base and get rid of all the to-dos. So that's
I have the same. So sometimes you just don't have the time, and sometimes you have to place a to do. And we will later see how many to dos we will introduce in our apps when we introduce more generated code, right?
Yeah, and so sometimes and this I think kind of closing this off, and we'll have probably this much more. I think we'll have much more comments. I did not code this. This came from AI, and here we have one of the comments there, which kind of explains how something is so it's completely ridiculous, but they have it there for some reason. So definitely a lot of fun, and check it out. There's a lot more kind of through there, and I think it'll be interesting to kind of see. And I think the big reminder is it doesn't have to be perfect code underneath it. It probably won't be to succeed. So keep on coding, and don't forget the come back to the actual to-dos. Don't just to do in the code and forget it.
So Jan,
Yes.
this is a topic I would like just briefly scratch here, and you can keep up the slide. We will cover it next week. So there is some privacy topic with Mozilla and Firefox, but we will skip it for now. It's better for people to like the episode and push up in the algorithm, and so that we can focus on other nice topics and get this whole stream bumped up for people who don't know yet that we exist. And with that, Jan, what's the Meteor news? I think we have some quite nice news to report on the Meteor side.
Yes. Just also very quickly about the Mozilla story. There were some recent updates, so we'll have that already for next week as well. But now we are off to Meteor News. This is sponsored by my company, Meteor Universe. If you go in and sign up for any of the tiers, you can use promo code MeteorJS to get 1 month free. And first news we have a new member in the Meteor team. His nickname is ItaloJS, which the JS does not stand for JavaScript. That stands for Jose, or however you pronounce it. I would say probably Jose. In my part of the world, if we kind of go with as it's written, so it would be Jose. Anyway, welcome to the team. He is a digital nomad, and he will be focusing on performance and has previously worked in Express, Node.js core as well. So it's really good to have somebody from those parts of the world come in and help Meteor with performance.
Very cool.
Also, quite recently, or maybe not, there was a post about scaling Meteor to, was it? Let me double check my notes here because it's a big number, and of course okay, here we go.
What?
It was scaling up to 30,000 concurrent users.
Yeah.
And it was now published on the official Meteor blog as a full-fledged article with some additional information. So, yeah, and how much have you scaled your applications in Meteor?
I always talk about that I have a very different scaling strategy than most people have in Meteor because I even don't use Reddit. I don't use Reddit as well. Oh, now it's getting big wars here starting. No, I don't use Redis even because I'm not at that point with scaling, but that's because I have a very high observer reuse. I usually have single documents that are subscribed by many people at the same time because I'm doing lots of classroom situations in my apps. Single document shared by many people, and then there's usually one person, that's usually the teacher or the lecturer, updating this very document, and based on these changes the users try to pull off different data by methods. So that's basically what I'm doing, and that scales very well because you have very few publications and most of the stuff is handled by methods, which is of course much more efficient, and caching I can do even in the RAM most of that stuff because I don't have that heavy data loads. So I'm not the best person to talk about scaling, but I just can try to tell you like how we designed our app. So I'm still not considered that big to be the right person for that, but maybe this will come one day.
Yeah, I'm right now in the zone of hundreds of concurrent users at a time, but still that's fine. I'm just getting away without using Redis or like that because I'm actually using a lot of the other tips and tricks to kind of boost performance that are described in this article as well. So one of the big things also is kind of reiteration of the basics. So definitely give it a read, even if you don't plan to scale anytime soon, because you might have learned one or few things, or at least be aware of those topics. So you might kind of think ahead when kind of developing, so that you don't fall into traps or issues later on that are easily preventable now. But as with scaling, each application is different. You will have different problems, different bottlenecks. So that will be something that you will have to kind of work out through the pains as things go.
Okay, let me get you something for the client side coming from the server. We're now looking at a new release of FlowRouter, which is maintained by Dr. Dimitru, and who's also maintaining the Meteor files package and some other awesome packages like cookies, and who's also providing the Meteor file services. I'm using that especially because it works awesome for Blaze. It's the continuation of the Kadira FlowRouter. And I don't know, Jan, if you remember this one, the Kadira FlowRouter. It was a very popular one. But it's like, of course, it became deprecated. This package basically continued it, and this has now some Meteor 3, Blaze 3 also optimization, but it's not tightly coupled to Blaze. So you can also use it, for example, with React if you want. But I know, Jan, you might be using some different router, right?
Yeah, so I've used Kadira FlowRouter back in the days. If it was kind of the similar situation of it being abandoned today, we would have it under Meteor community packages. But back then, it wasn't around. So the FlowRouter Extra kind of came to being and continued. And I think it's in a very good hand. Right now, I'm using React Router. I'm actually on version 6, not on the latest one version, which is version 7, if I have my numbers correctly, because of some issues with package.json import export stuff, which Zoudern has a working PR on. But I'm heavily considering going back towards FlowRouter.
Yeah, give it a
Primarily
try.
because I have like made like a very small Blaze kind of test as application, and it has it has everything that kind of the React router has been adding recently, and I think it makes much more sense to have it in FlowRouter as opposed to React router. But the way React is developing, as I have been kind of saying in the past few episodes, is I'm not happy, and I will be looking for alternatives and potentially maybe even going up back to Blaze. But that, if anything, that's going to be a very, I would maybe a bit more forced decision.
You could also
Because
check out Vue. We have a recent Vue integration improvements on Meteor, so which is close to Blaze.
I've kind of gotten too much used to React and
Yeah.
HTML and JavaScript instead of the other way around. And if anything, I think with Blaze, what I feel is that there would have to be, or I think there maybe more improvements in regards to coupling potentially with Meteor to kind of make it like a no-brainer if you really want to fully enjoy the reactivity, which is another issue that I have recently with React, that it's kind of the reactivity I'm getting with Meteor is less and less.
Important. Okay, what's up in Meteor Core?
So I think yesterday was it at the time? Yes, actually no, earlier today, or maybe yesterday, given how I probably got this at 8 in the morning. There's a new pull request which updates the roadmap, which was a bit unexpected, but I think kind of follows up from the recent kind of shuffles in the team and the new onboarding. And the changes are that there will be more short-term focus on performance and bundle size. And we still have MongoDB change streams coming in, capacitor, improved TypeScript support, or more TypeScript types and all that stuff, and improve CI so that's kind of what's coming up in Meteor 3.2 and 3.3. And the other remaining issues were kind of moved into future quarters, not this one. So those are the changes. I would highly recommend everybody to check it out. There's some funny discussion going on there, but also it's a good opportunity for you to let the team know what you think about the changes and all of that, or at least get yourself aware of the big changes that are coming down.
Yeah, I will just do that right now because I want to look where is the Vite bundling support here. What's going on? I wanted to have Vite bundling so we can get our tree shaking.
Yeah, well, it's still there, but it's being pushed back as looks like the team is focused more, kind of getting more insight into the current performance. So if you have noticed, Nacho especially is doing a lot of pull requests to get metrics to see
Mm.
uh, how Meteor build tool is fast, or where the bottlenecks.
This is so
And
much needed. Yeah.
yes, and that will also allow us to have a better evaluation, that if we switch to Beat, to actually check if it's
Yeah.
worth it, or if actually the current
Mm.
solution, especially after all these improvements we made, will be better. So that's uh, that's something for the future.
Great.
Okay.
And then there's some important stuff for everyone to know so that nobody's freaking out, right?
Yes, so we already had few people freaking out that npm audit is returning a high severity warning on the elliptic package, and which is a dependency of Meteor node stubs. Recently, I've updated it to latest patch version that came out. The problem, though, is that the patch version does not fully addresses the security warning, and it looks like it's actually deeper issues with the package itself. So right now, there isn't really much we can do about it, and we are, there's a review currently in process to see how much we are, if at all, affected by this. And there is still an ongoing open issue on the uh, elliptic repository. Uh, so for right now, don't panic. And I think this kind of goes to all of the security audits, unless it's like package that you specifically know about that you use in production. So if there's like a security warning on React or Blaze, then that would be very much, panic time to kind of check. But a lot of the times, a lot of these warnings are under very specific conditions, uh, very niche. That doesn't mean that's not a problem, but oftentimes, that specific vulnerable code is not even used by many of the applications. So it's always good to kind of check things out to see. Another thing is, there isn't really much we can do with this than sit and wait and potentially find a replacement for elliptic. But yes, the team is aware of this. We are looking into it as much as we can, but at the same time, it's up to the upstream to fix.
So when Jan, just a quick thing here, because when you say we, do you mean we as Meteor core team or we as community as a whole?
So in this case, I would say yes, which means the Meteor core team is aware of it. I did the pull request for at least to get in the patch for 6.6.1 of elliptic, and I am looking into it as well, and I'm sure the team by Meteor is looking at it as well. So it's multiple people looking into it.
Hmm.
And I think that's where I want to kind of leave it. Otherwise, we can bore you with all the technical details, and I'm just scratching the surface. So I'm not even sure I want to get into that.
Okay, and before we go into our main topic, I want to remind everyone we still have much more viewers than we have subscribers. So we have a lot of our viewers as non subscribers. And if you have a YouTube or Google account, then it would be awesome if you support us with your subscription, not only because you will help us improve the channel, because once we get some more options for monetization, and thus more options for our stream in general, you will also get the latest news notified on your mobile device or on your desktop or whatever when you have a subscription to the channel. So don't forget about that. And I think now it's time for our main topic, which we announced like like really
Yes.
this week, and that is, what was the topic name?
So,
reasons.
five reasons why AI will not replace you, and will do you a solid and throw in one bonus one at the end as well. So, there's a lot of talk about AI. There's people talking about vibe coding, which in a way just gonna put in things to AI and let it code, and then just push it to production, or just test it and then push it to production. Honestly, to me, just sounds like somebody who has already made it, has a lot of money, and can just sit back. Okay, get me this application. Like, okay, looks good. Push it to production. I don't care. That's kind of how it sounds to me. I do recall also that I think it was from people from Gumroad, that they've pretty much changed that. They have like AI tool to generate the idea and the description of the feature for another AI tool, that then creates the design, that then is pushed to another AI tool which generates the code, and then another AI tool that does all additional optimization of it, or something like that. Which for me was back then, I was like, okay, similarly to as we had earlier, people don't want to dealing with their own GPUs, all that stuff. I don't want to deal with five AI tools to just create one feature. Come back to me once you have it all in one.
Yeah, but Jan, look, vibe coding. Come on, that is a term that screams that someone wants to establish some kind of a trend. Like, hey, yeah, I'm not a full stack engineer. I'm a vibe coder, and I'm vibing here with my chai latte and enjoying my vibes with my right mindset, because you don't have the right mindset. You need that mindset to get the AI straight doing what you want, so that sounds vibe coding to me. But okay, things apart, Jan, what are the 5 reasons, or what's the first reason basically?
So number one, AI lacks true problem solving, design thinking abilities. So
But
this
don't we have
goes
that somehow?
well, that's the thing, like a lot of people are actually losing their abilities. And I think I just today I recently earlier today before the show, I was watching a video from Theo, and who said, I was using AI for like some language, and then like the server was down something, or he had like was offline and had to like code, and he could not remember how to do a for loop because he hasn't done it in such a long time. So this is kind of, I could say, downside of AI, that we uh, lose our abilities because we are not using them, because that's kind of part of that. We are constantly coding, writing. It's the process that makes us developers. So that's the downside. But and that's also an issue with AI, because at the end of the day, right now, it has the, everybody says AI, but let's use the proper term. That's this is large language model, LLM, and it's a token predictive machine. Uh, it just predicts what should be the next word. So it isn't doing any problem solving or design thinking. It's trained on Stack Overflow and GitHub repositories, which is also like another problem related into that, with a lot of, because most of the code that's kind of out there, let's just say, is not of top quality. It's usually junior, mid-level developers, and a lot of the code is just also college exercises and other things. So, for every good, quality repository, there is hundreds, if not thousands of, just putting it out there to share or just to have it like saved because this is homework for my class.
but
So it's not
that's
trained on that as well. And that will be kind of the majority. Go ahead, Jan.
Yeah, but I just think like in general terms, that's because the LLMs themselves, they just use the trained data, as you said, and then predict something coming up, and they try to incorporate now some kind of a reasoning chain or something like this, so that they are more context aware, but it's still not true problem solving or not true reasoning as we could have, for example, in a language like Prolog or something where Boolean logic is just incorporated into the language, and this might get solved soon. So I think this is like it's a soft reason because current nowadays we are not at that point. But I personally think this is something they will definitely try to tackle because that's one of the biggest critics point for now. Especially because you have to rely, as you just said, you have to rely on data that is out there that is maybe not reliable. So if I would be a company like OpenAI, that would be definitely my target to work on to get a better true problem solving, design thinking abilities, and so on. That might be solved, but you also said there are some factors on us that it's causing, so that it's not only causing the AI, or how to say, we have some cognitive decline when we constantly use AI to solve our problems. So this is more of a meta level thing. So we just have to be aware that if we all use AI, then it would become us being not replaceable but getting dumber in some sense, that we just forget our own way of problem solving and reasoning. But here's one thing that it's not caused, that's the opposite of problem solving and reasoning, and that is our second point.
Yeah, I just want to quickly, though, before we go to that, put nice like examples. And this is, it was, I believe, in Venezuela. You remember there are like or it's not just like Venezuela, but there's a lot of, I think it's called favelas. So you have like this, let's say, mountainside ghettos. So, and the government, was it like almost maybe 10 years or maybe longer, started installing escalators and other things to make it more convenient for the people to go in. And what happened, or one of the things, I think one of the, I'm not sure exactly who it was, like foreigner like came was and was like absolutely aghast. No, the girls are going to lose one of their biggest selling point and export, and that's the so that's because, of course, as you go up and down, you exercise, and you build up your muscles, all that stuff. But once you start using the escalator, you start losing that. So that's a very similar thing. Like you need to constantly exercise to keep up, to have that muscle, and to achieve new heights. And also what you were like kind of selling here about the problem solving aspect of or like I think that would be something I'm looking forward how they are going to really solve it, because there, as I said, right now it's a LLM, so it predicts what should be the next one, and it's what's the next word properly. And one thing which is, I would say, kind of heavy contrast to science fiction, where we see the robots and AI as being like super logical. What we have found that the LLMs right now mimic us humans maybe a bit too much, that you could say, even though that they are not, they're like kind of two things that kind of appear, especially once you start for example, complaining that it's wrong. It tries to please you. So instead of trying to get the truth, which is potentially solvable, but also it appears to get emotional, which is again a very human trait, which I find extremely hilarious, because being able to feel emotions was, if you remember, like Star Trek Next Generation, the character of Data, who is an android, and that's like one of his pretty much the quest through the story is that to kind of understand human emotions and to also feel them. So that's very, very interesting. And there is the I forget the name of it, and this is right kind of the newspapers. As for example, if you read a newspaper article on a topic you're experts in, then usually you say, "Oh, this is total rubbish. They have no idea what they are talking about." But next day you go and read article on something different and say, "Oh, this is a great article, very informative, learned a lot," without remembering that yesterday you were just completely chastising them for how little they know about the topic. So there's again this, and this is also what my father is constantly going on. AI will know everything. It will, solve everything. It will make humans obsolete. But right now, so far, it's proving that it's yes, it can do some really interesting thing. But at the end of the day, it still suffers from the same issues, like the top experts in that given field.
Yeah,
So
it's
not,
basically fake it till you make it. So it's attempting to give you something back, as you said, to please you, but it's uh, then being precise and factual. And I think there is still, as you said, it tries to be human. Let's take a look at the second point, because I
yeah,
think
I
this
just
is.
want to have one like specific here so people understand. Recently, I've tried like to do aggregation with Grok to test it.
Mhm.
And overall it was fine, but then there were some specific issue, and it started putting in some steps that were or like keywords that were not in that were not for aggregations. So it still has this issue, and that kind of also related to our second point, where that AI lacks true understanding and creativity. Jan, do you want to take this on?
The thing is here that I personally can't put up some concept or like a concrete example where I can prove that it's lacking it. Um, but I think you know that also comes to the point that current AI is trained based on existing things. So the only kind of creativity would be randomness to be added, and then we decide if that's somehow fitting in terms of what we want to achieve. Um, the question is, if we take a look at these code assistant tools, for example, you put up this Copilot's AI. How how would a creative solution would look like if I include that into my code? Most of the times the creative solution might be not um, what I need, and it would rather be like what we know as hallucinations, that it's like something it thinks would be a great solution, but in the end it's just a problematic, error prone construct that simply doesn't work. So we have this, and then if we come back to, okay, but we want to be something deterministic, then we are already again out of this classic AI thing, because deterministic is like the code assisting tools we have in IDEs for years now, right?
Yeah, my take on this is that AI is not creative, the best description to kind of use here for LMS is that it's remixing. So if you remember, it's been quite a while. Actually, it was like this remixing culture where people created music videos, mixed different songs together, or videos together as well. There's, for example, fan fiction. When we go to literary aspect, that could be said is a little bit like remixing. So it's uses existing things, mixes it together, makes it kind of at least appear seamless. But beyond that, it cannot really, at least for now, and I think for the really foreseeable future, until we get into actual true AI, which is a different topic. It really cannot create anything original. It's always dependent on the input. But because we do not have, you could say, such a huge RAM of all the, could say, Stack Overflow and all the documentation in our head, there's this perception of, could say, creativity or actual problem solving, because we don't have so many, you could say, have that big capacity as compared, for example, with the LLM.
But one problem with the LLM is the LLM doesn't have access to the great solutions, because the great solutions to big problems are not written in code mostly. A lot of these solutions are written as concepts on scientific papers. Plus, so the LLM first would have to be, or the AI, I don't always want to, there's also a trap, don't fall into that trap that AI is LLM and vice versa. This is just one instance of it. The problem is that it would have to first solve issue 1 with the reasoning and all that stuff in order to understand what code it has to produce in order to get from the scientific paper of a certain solution to a very specific and complex problem to output the right code. That's the first thing. And there are many solutions out there for complex problems, but companies that pay their engineers very well to solve these hard problems usually don't open their code. So there is not so much to pick up for an AI for these complex problems again. And then there is the next thing, and that is, I write an application. Let's say we write an application in Meteor, and we even feed it with the documentation of Meteor, and we feed it even with the core code and all the package level code and all that stuff. Sorry, there is still one problem, and that is, let's say there is a solution that would require me to, I don't know, let's say monkey patch things, or there's the problem I can't just simply right now solve because of constraints of the system, of the package ecosystem, whatever. The AI might never come up with, you can't solve it. It would try to give you some BS, yeah, and will tell you like, here is some kind of a weird solution, but and that's the part of lacks true understanding. To be on this level of telling you, you can't solve that right now, not with that, with I don't know, with certain boundaries being removed or whatever. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or is it understandable?
Yeah.
What
I
I
think
to
like
say?
another good kind of example of this, and this is kind of, again, my father say, once, or like people say, once AI has, through AIs, then it will solve all of the scientific questions and everything. Will gain true understanding of the universe. And it's a again, that's not true, because first of all, it only has access to the information that was fed into it. And if you look, for example, just on sciences through the history, a lot of the time the scientific consensus was very different than what is today. At one point people thought Earth was flat, and if you didn't believe that, then you were total kook that has no position to be in the scientific community, despite the scientific method, all of that, those things. There's still, it's still very difficult for a lot of people, if they devote their entire life to, say, a very specific scientific theory, to say, no, I was wrong my entire life. I have been, working on things that's not true. This new data proves me wrong. So, a lot of the times it's, you are going to be a cook with the new data, and people will try to disprove your data, sometimes correctly, but sometimes not. And it usually takes, the, can I say, the maverick who is not going to be to conform to established, say, society, or established consensus, and do something different. And if we go to programming, and say, okay, the consensus is that we write everything in Next.js, and then if you have something that just does not fit that, then it doesn't fit the worldview of the LLM, and it cannot think out of that.
Yeah, and here's the thing. So that's what I try to convey. You have a worldview, and let's say, in order to produce a hack, like we showed in Command and Conquer, in previously, these evil hacks. Yeah. And in order to produce them, you have to lose yourself from the worldview. Giving you a concrete example with JavaScript, there are so many quirks in JavaScript, and you are always told in every literature out there and whatnot to not use them, to avoid them, because they are causes of issues. But here's the thing: if you know how they work and understand them, then you could creatively come up with a solution as a hack to use these quirks in order to achieve a solution, to do this evil hack. But don't want to go into the debate to be a clever programmer. We all know that this turns out to be problematic, but that's the thing. The literature and so the basis for the AI currently, so it tells you to not use these quirks. But in order to produce some weird out of the box hacks, sometimes you need to understand that, yeah, I can use these quirks. It's not forbidden. It's not best practice, but it's not forbidden. And this is true understanding and creativity, in my opinion. Would be interesting to see how many years we still have until this gets resolved as well.
I think this is going, if we go by LLMs, then LLMs by their main nature cannot do that. But if we create, a true generic AI, then that's a different story, and we have discussion on that. I think the biggest tip here, also, pro tip, is not just to be, one thing you can be super focused, in your field. That's how it used to be in the old days. But in order also to be creative, you need to kind of go outside of your main focus and be aware of a lot of other things. And I think in this way, actually, for example, Star Trek: The Next Generation can be a very good inspiration of how to kind of form yourselves as a human. I think just being a programmer is not going to cut it. You need to, really go beyond that. And if we look at the characters in Star Trek: Next Generation, it's not just they are naval officer. Just they are musicians, they are archaeologists, they have many other areas of interest. They know physics, mathematics, they go philosophy, law, all those things. So in a way, it's also kind of going back to the olden days, but back then you could kind of know a lot very easily about a lot of fields. But you need to kind of go beyond. And I think getting into philosophy, ethics, and understanding much more and deeper. Let's do the meme. Learn more, for example, about ancient Rome and other historical things can then help you to kind of expand your creativity, because you can pull on other things that which might seem at first unrelated, but then through your needs and everything, it will kind of click together.
But I mean, data-wise, there is the potential for these connections at least to be made, because the huge models have, of course, enough diverse data to at least have the environment or the preposition to be able to do that. But there's another thing, and that's one of my personal most important topics that is still not 100% solved yet, because this is also dependent on the data, and this is bullet point number 3. AI currently, of course, we are not here in the superlatives. AI currently can't handle responsibility, security, and ethics. And not only responsibility in terms, just to clarify that term with responsibility, this is not only in terms of responsible being, but also in terms of responsible taking ownership or responsibility of what it produces, and thinking about it. So when I produce a function in terms of maintainability, then I'm also responsible to write that function in a way that it's maintainable for people who come after me, or my own self who comes back in a few years taking a look at that function. This is also responsibility at the small level. But also there's responsibility on the bigger level, that the software we write has impacts on human lives every day. And what AI outputs has also impact on human lives. And I know we know all these chatty CEOs, what they talk about all the time, how they want to improve humanity and make lives for everyone better. But when it comes to this whole responsibility and ethics thing, and also security, I always feel like this is not always 100% their true intention.
Yeah, well, I think it kind of goes. This is a problem in general in the technical fields, that we have a lot of people who are very much focused on just fixing the problem, solving the solving the tasks, providing a solution and whatnot as well. So obviously, expand into philosophy, ethics, history. Especially going into the future, like just as kind of following orders and just doing what you're being told is not really going to get you anywhere. And if you just do that, then you will be the first to be replaced by the LLMs and AIs. And when it comes to responsibility and ethics, I don't think this is something I think in our lifetime that LLMs and AIs will be able to replace. There's a big discussion, not just in the EU, but the EU is already kind of looking at legislating all these things. Is who is responsible for the AI code? Who is responsible for the security and all the different things? It's kind of and I think the big thing in the future is going to be I didn't wrote it, AI, that was the AI output that I put in there as instructed. And it kind of reminds me of say socialist, but also like a lot of the government practices where especially in communism is, we just have committees for everything, and at the end you cannot hold anybody responsible because it was a collective decision and everybody did the best with the data they had at the time. So there's nobody who can be held responsible that it killed people, the decision killed people, and so on. So
well, I wouldn't even go into the whole system thing. I would say even 2 levels below that.
Yeah.
I think it just applies to any construct or group that has some own interest beyond the interests of others, and then it's already let's say sacrificing or doing sacrifices or means to an end, and I don't know if regulation is the answer to that. That's the one thing. But no regulation is also not the answer to that, in my opinion. And we have complex situations here. who's responsible if a software causes a death because of a AI generated code that a developer team introduced into their code base? Who's responsible? That is, and the user of the software, the developer team, or the AI, or all three. First, and there are so many perspectives on that, the ethical perspectives, but also the juridical, the legal perspective. And I think there is already some work on that, and there will be future clarification on that, I think.
Yeah.
You already got some resources on that.
Yeah. Well, another thing is, the problem is that you say AI, or like, if somebody dies, we do not hold, the function, the code responsible, because there is, no way how to do that, or it's just there's just like no. It's a thing. It's an object. It does exactly what is being told. So, and right now, under the law and everywhere, the only people, or only people can hold, responsibility, or be held responsible. So unless that changes, then that's where we are with responsibility.
But and also related to that, you're providing the article. So majority of voters don't want government to make decisions using AI. And this is obvious because it gives you already the feeling that somebody is giving away the responsibility to, in the end, say, I was not responsible, but we can't make the AI responsible either. And it's the same like why I don't like to chat with an AI bot, but want to chat with a human, because I want to see that there is somebody holding some responsibility for my support. And I think that's the same for many of these risky decisions here. And this thing is a philosophical thing that I don't know if this will ever get resolved, because it's just one of these super fundamental questions in this whole thing. And in terms of that, when there are critical things, I even don't know if there will be a legal solution soon for AI involvement. So from that perspective, if you're working in some critical sectors, I don't think there is any time soon AI replacing you as a software engineer. At least not when it comes to responsibilities and who to blame.
Yeah, this, kind of the reaction to this, again, this is a bit of a sci-fi take. I always get reminded by a quote from Andromeda sci-fi series, because they always had at the beginning of episode like a citation from like a fictional book or something. And one of the episode had, worlds governed by artificial intelligence often learn a hard lesson: logic doesn't care. So I think that's kind of where the fear is coming from on that.
I don't know. Wasn't there the radical what was the name? There was this in Star Trek on the planet where Spock lived. There were these groups of these
Vulcans, yes.
Yeah, these radical rationalists as a group there, and there were also some very not so 100% ethical.
Yes. So I think to kind of conclude on this, read up on philosophy, history, learn about ethics, and be aware of this, because I think this is going to become much more topic into the future, and that can also give you the edge.
And take ownership of your code.
Yep. So what do you guys think in the chat? Let us know, and we'll move on to number 4.
Yes, please let us know. And number 4 also is already a little bit evolving out of that prior topic, right?
Yes. So still AI generated code still requires human oversight. That's as I said before. As I tested, for example, with Grok, even at the end of the day, I still had to make fixes in there. It's imperfect. It's going to be probably imperfect for a very long time, and you will always need to have make some adjustments. In the future, as we've hinted at, there will be also the questions of responsibility. I would say um, potentially, especially if we have a lot of like regulation in this aspect, that if you generate a code with AI and you put it in production, that you are fully responsible for that, then this will kind of, the human oversight will kind of come out of that. So
Yeah.
that,
Plus, you have to take the engineering perspective into context. So you may have, at least currently, AI generate code from a programmer level. But when we take a look at the software engineering perspective and even go into the software architecture perspective, there are many more rules and setups we have to consider. Like, especially you have a code base that is, I don't know, recently we covered in the stream, there was someone posting in the forums they open sourced their code. Oh no, they talked about migrating to Meteor 3, and they had like over 700 templates, and it was a huge Meteor application, over 100k lines. And I mean, there is software out there with millions lines of code. There are so many patterns, rules, conventions, and hacks, as we already covered. You have to take into perspective that writing one line of code might take you, I don't know, hours of pre-work to understand the consequences, which is why, as we just said, there needs to be oversight, there needs to be review, there needs to be someone who takes this code into perspective of the whole overall system and really see if that's the intended way of doing things. One could argue we have automated tests. Tests are passing, everything is good. Yeah, then we would have solved so many problems already in the past if just running tests and code coverage will solve your issue. But that's software engineering. That's even, there are unknown unknowns we have to deal with. And I think that's where human oversight will have to will have to stay in the loop. And in order to oversight what the AI is coding, you need to understand software engineering practices. You need to understand the language you're working in on a very high level. And if you just outsource this to become a vibe programmer and vibing your way through the code, then you will not be able to do this supervision.
yeah, and I think the big part of that, and that kind of goes back to what I said before, to kind of expand your horizons and be aware of more than just programming, is yes, you might go through the AI, create an application or something, and it does what you want it to, but suddenly then there are the, say, additional consequences. And so I nice example is, for example, I give a task to my designer to design me a feature and all of that. I look at it, we go through it. Oftentimes, even through that process, we discover, okay, what, if we do this, then this affects this other part of the application. But eventually, you kind of sort those things out, and then I go to coding, and I go, oh, I cannot do it like this because of another part of the application. Or then I suddenly realize, oh, if we proceed with this feature like it is currently, it will have this additional side effect that I don't want. So that's that. Those are things that you get as you kind of go through the code oftentimes. So you have to really go back and forward in this case, with a designer, and the same thing. So you have to really look into it to see that it does everything that you want. Because, for example, another thing could be that you have some sort of a form where you gather data, and it does all of that. It gathers the data, it sends it to a database, but then maybe a month later you learned that it also sends it to the Communist Party central database as well, because it took some of the example code. There was like a library that was the censorship program or whatnot. So that's a big part of it. So that's really to be have to be really do oversight. And this is not just necessarily with AI, but also with other people in the company as well. That's what peer reviews are for. So that's on that. Jan, anything more on this? I think we've kind of had a lot of build up, and now it's kind of quick.
Yeah, everybody waiting for the sixth reason that we give away. But yeah, there is one more thing. No, not. Let's go to the next one. And there's one more thing that is really important here, and that is software development nowadays is a truly collaborative process, may it be in the company, but also on the open source space. Take a look in the Meteor repository. How many people are every day collaborating on this repository? And AI can be one entity in that process, but at least in the foreseeable future, it will not manage the same thing on its own as we do. Look how a roadmap is done in this repository. We just covered it today. This is a process where you have to consider so many factors right now, also human factors. There's like what is technologically necessary. You also have to think about what is the community saying. And if we don't cover what the community is saying, then we develop the software for only technical reasons, and then the community might move on to something else that covers their needs much more. And this is also a compassionate thing, because sometimes you have to decide just for the sake of the community to keep the community, even if it's not the technical best decision right now. Just from a technical standpoint of view, of course, we would have now tree shaking. I just can't stop telling everyone we want to have tree shaking finally. But there are also other demands from the community, and also just chores, things that needs to clean up. I just annoyed everyone that I have some issues with the dogs, so that bundles resources on them. It's a complex decision, and I personally wonder if 10 AI agents would be able to solve that more efficiently. But here's the question: is efficiency quality? Yeah, is efficiency quality? These are two different things. They are both important, and yeah, maybe.
Yeah, another big part of this is also resource limitations as well, because there isn't infinite amount of people, infinite amount of money to resolve all of these things. The same thing with how much AI you put onto the problem that's going to cost something. So that all comes into it, and all of that is part of negotiation as well.
Oh yeah, just think about this standard negotiation everybody knows from us. So there's sales coming, or there are the C levels or whatever bosses coming in, tell like, yeah, there is we had that customer and they asking if we can deliver in 3 months these fancy features, and we just said yes. So are you able to do it? And of course, no, of course, usually it's like asking like how much effort is it, and then you have to negotiate because there are also unknowns and all that stuff. So it's and if we would only go by the vibe programmer perspective, there would be no negotiation. There would be like, I want that, code it, give it to me, and then publish it. And that's it. So there is no care, no sensitivity in the details. And if that in the end will fit the customer needs, this is also another thing. I mean, I just want to peek here. I just read an article today, again, new UI updates on, like, we all know from Windows and from other tools, like there's a new UI update, and I always wonder why do I don't need always new UI updates? Who decided that there is now a new UI? Because new UIs can be sold as facelifts. And then we come back to this whole thing of ethics and ownership. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's it. Also, kind of reminds me of. I'm trying to quickly find it, but it's eluding me. It's XKCD, but maybe knows that the classical. This is how the marketing people sold it. This is the product design. This is what the customer expects. This is what the developer has created, and then it is what actually the customer needed. So all those things are negotiations and things that you need to figure out, and actually that's where a lot of the great products come in, that they have actually figured out what the customer needs and not what they tell them to.
True, and in that process, it's also a competency of a good engineer to know their boundaries and say, like, I don't know a solution for that. We have to do experiments. We have to do experimental phase. We need 3 months to even find out if we're capable of that. AI won't immediately tell you that, because, as we said, it's trying to always please you, come up with some, you could hear and somewhere like this. It will not say plain no or I don't know, but that's required in that process. That's as same as important as finding a good estimation. It's also to know we don't know. We have to find out.
All right, and with that, let's if I can find my slide again, let's move on to the bonus point, why you shouldn't be afraid, and that is AI itself needs developers to evolve. This is actually a problem, and I just don't have the article pull up here, that it has been discovered quite a while ago that eventually, if you don't provide it a new, could say, human input, the AI starts devolving until it enters into a spiral, call it the toilet bowl spiral, and it just completely devolves into things that is not legible. So that's something really that at the end of the day we constantly feed it new things for it to be usable. In a way, it's also kind of the danger that if somehow we manage to, even if we manage to, say, avoid this scenario, we are facing the let's say complete stagnation, because it will keep on recommending the same old solution and there won't be any technological progress. So there will be always need for developers, if nothing else, just to feed the beast.
Plus, take a look. What knowledge and understanding in terms of software engineering, but also in terms of mathematics, statistics, and all the prior AI knowledge you need in order to develop a new AI model. If we don't have that, who would develop that? Of course, one could say, yeah, but until we just need to reach a point where AI is capable of doing that. But then there is still the question, if it would not be able to creatively think out of the box, then the question is in what way it would evolve, and if it then still would evolve, or if we are coming back to what you said, it's devolving, and then we have this internal feedback loop of just mediocreness, and that's there might be a point where that could become the case, that it can replicate, or it could write its own extensions and all that stuff. But then there's also another side. Do we want that? Do we want AI to be unsupervised evolving? This is also, again, an ethics question. I know there are all these scenarios, these horror scenarios, and Matrix and whatnot, but a Terminator, as we had in our initial thumbnail. But apart from them, it might also evolve into something totally unusable and mediocre or even bad. So I think this whole supervision requires understanding of so many of these topics, deep understanding, craftsmanship, but also professionalism and years of experience. So I don't personally see that this is soon going away.
Yeah, and another thing that we've kind of seen in the past already, part of the gibberish, is that eventually, left to its own devices, AI starts developing its own language for better communication. We've seen that in the past. Facebook kind of shut it down very quickly, or recently, actually, have they started utilizing that they started talking in their new optimized language. So, for example, if two bots of the same company meet, they can talk in their own streamlined language as well in that regard. But again, I think there is a very much a limit. A lot of the fears I think that we have is just from sci-fi dystopia, and I strongly believe, at least as LMMs as they are right now, that they cannot function without humans. And it's actually a problem, for example, for the image generating AIs, that they are starting to run into that there's becoming more and more images that are generated by AIs or AIs, and not enough by humans. So that's of course a problem for them, because they are starting to degenerate in their craft. And it's a problem that we are trying also to look into at literary universes, that it's much more easier to just do prompt engineering, and instead of hone your craft as a writer or as an artist. But there is just no escaping, at least for now, as far as we can see. And I think even in the future, as AI becomes more evolved, there still need like some sort of human direction, at the very least, at least until it's at the same level as us. But at the same time, think of the average, as it says, the average voter and realize half of the nation is stupider than that. So even like as humans, we still have ways to go. So any last comments on this, Jan, or the chat?
Oh, I can definitely give you my last comment, and that is we will be back in a year and do this session again and see if all the 6 points still apply.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of our first throw at the wall to see, and I think we can definitely refine them. As you can see, they kind of come from one into the other, so I think we can definitely improve that. I'm up for a more in-depth discussion. I'm kind of more, as we don't really have to worry about it. If you care for your craft, if you care, for to go into it, dedicate yourself, and move forward, then you will be always, I would say, on the top, especially if you can kind of mix things into it. But I'll leave that for another discussion.
Yeah, that when we are replaced by bots in a year, they will do that discussion again.
All right, let's see what we have next on the slide. Okay, so we'll have definitely a talk, but also I want to give everybody a big reminder. It has been something, can you believe it's been like almost a year with Meteor 3? But that said, I think it was last time or the time before, we said that Meteor 2 support ends in June. And I want to kind of do some self-advertising here. If you want help with Meteor 3, feel free to contact me, schedule a consultation with me, and I can help you. And definitely do go and do it before June, because once June hit, I will be doubling my prices because I want to kind of move on as well, and then constantly be stuck with Meteor 3 migration. So you should also do it for security and all the other reasons that we've described in the last year. So remember that we have until really June. There's going to be Meteor 2.16.1 release before then, but that will most likely be the last from the Meteor 2 series, and then we are all on Meteor 3. Okay, final thoughts, Jan.
Oh, I think I outputted everything I had just right now. So for me, it's weekend time. I also close to losing my voice now. So I'd like to say thank you for everyone who was here, and I hope we gave you some input, some food for thoughts, and hope to see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe, then you will be notified when the next episode is coming out. And with that, I personally want to say goodbye and have a great weekend.
Okay, have a great weekend, everybody, and let us know what do you think about our future AI overlords in the comments.
See you.